All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's so great to see you. My name is Penny Costaris, and I'm an academic and life skills coach and founder and CEO of Wise Student. I love helping students step into their greatness and shine through academic counseling and life skills support. And I'm really excited to have this meeting tonight where we're showcasing 3 seniors who are about to graduate from high school, and they've been through the college application and admissions process. They've come out on the other side, and they're here to share their stories and their wisdom, especially for those of you who haven't been through it yet and you probably have a bunch of questions. What I've noticed, because I help counsel students through the college application process, is that I noticed it can seem to be a really daunting task. It is, of course, a very long-term project that goes on for months and even years, when you start planning in 10th and 11th grade even. But it seems overwhelming at times. So we want to just kind of chip away at that brick and break it down for you so it doesn't seem so overwhelming and scary, but you can kind of pick at it at pieces and glean the wisdom from these guys who are on the meeting tonight, so you have a better sense of what's ahead, and so you can take their tips and tricks and apply them to your own personal search, okay? So thank you again for being here, everyone. How we're going to do it tonight is I'm going to just start the conversation with James, Johnny, and Ryan, and they'll introduce themselves, of course. And then in the middle, if you have a question, you can go ahead and send it in the chat, and I'll try to read it as we go if it's applicable to the topic at the moment. But then afterwards, there will be a time for you to ask all questions. We'll have a whole Q&A section as well, okay? So excellent. Who's here? Mary Catherine, welcome. So thank you again for being here, everyone. So let's have our seniors introduce themselves. James, go ahead. Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm James. I go to San Mateo High School. And in the fall, I'll be attending Washington University in St. Louis. In my free time, I like to play music. I'm really into that. I play saxophone and piano. I also play water polo. And I'm also a Boy Scout. So that's kind of what I do in my free time.
Excellent. Thank you, James. And James made Eagle Scout, by the way, guys. Big. He is the Boy Scout. Well done, James. Well deserved. Thank you for being here. Johnny, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm a senior at Crystal Springs Upland School. My free time, I do cross country and track and soccer. So right now it's track season, doing a lot of running right now. In the fall, I'm going to be going to Oberlin College in Ohio, and I'm also going to be running there.
Fabulous. Congratulations, Johnny, for being on the team there. Thank you. Ryan, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ryan Fung. I'm a senior at Mills High School. And like Johnny, I did track, I did cross country, and I did soccer, but then I realized that running wasn't really for me. I don't like it, but I still try to do it. I'm also, I play, I'm in the band, I play percussion, and I picked up trumpet at one point, but it got pretty hard. And on my free time, I've been playing chess. It's pretty fun.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I think, James, you have an affinity for chess too, don't you? Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Ryan. It's so great to have you here. All right, everyone. So we'll start by just hearing a little bit from our seniors. We'll get going with the college choice situation. And again, if you have any questions right now as they come or as our seniors are speaking, go ahead and send them in the chat. If you want to get a notebook and a piece of paper right now too to jot down any nuggets of wisdom that you hear, I highly recommend that as well, okay? But let's start with college choice. So James, let's start with you. How did you start your search process? What were you looking for in a school? And did what you were looking for change over time? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I started by like writing down some of the things that I was interested in or that I was looking for in a school. So for me personally, I kind of wanted more mid-size. I didn't want anything like super small, but I also didn't want like a massive school. So I thought mid-size would be good for me. I wanted something with a good music program because that was something I was into. A school with like an academic program that fit what I was interested in. So I'm planning on going into economics and computer science. And so the school that I ended up deciding has like a combined major with those two studies. So yeah, so I think mostly like I looked at what I was wanting to study, like what I do in my free time, and how that's, you know, at the school, like how I can participate in that in whatever college I go to, and then like the size. And then also you'll probably end up visiting schools and kind of get a feel for like the campus and that kind of stuff. That's important as well. You want to feel like you're going to enjoy your time over the 4 years. So make sure you know, choose a campus that you feel like fits what you're looking for as well. And I know some people like don't want to go to a really hot place or really cold place. I didn't really care that much about that, to be honest, but you know, that's also a factor for many people. So yeah, I think those are probably the main things that I considered.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's excellent. Johnny, how about you? What did you consider when you were searching for a school? What are you looking for? You know, did it change over time? How did you finally decide? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so on the initial search process, I just kind of looked up schools and visited their websites. More of just schools I'd heard of. I've heard like people talking about things like that, like bigger sports programs, because you hear about those more. So I'd kind of got a sense of what I wanted from that, and I figured out that I wanted more of like that small to medium size, nothing tiny, but nothing like massive either. I guess it ended up being around the range of like anywhere from like 4,000 to like 12,000 was kind of the range of schools I was looking at. And similar to James, like you want a school that's going to fit what you want academically. So some schools have better programs in certain areas. So I started looking at, I want to go into something that's a bit more of like a physical therapy track. So I started looking at schools that had programs for that, and that helped narrow down the search process as well. And also I got a lot of schools from my school's college counselor. They're super awesome team, team CCO. They're awesome. They help you go through that process and kind of will give you that list. So that was a big help, just because it helped show some schools and show some different types of schools that would be different from what I was already looking at, them also might be cool.
That's great, because that happens, right? We hear the same schools over and over again, and because friends are talking about them, but there are 3,000 different colleges and universities in the United States alone. So the choices are infinite. So that's great that you had that team, Johnny, who helped widen your search and show you some possibilities that maybe couldn't have been possible if you just stayed within the same kind of view of what everybody was talking about. Thank you. That's a great point. Ryan, how about you? What was your search process like, and what were you looking for in a school, and how did you finally end up deciding?
Yeah, so originally I actually had no idea what to look for in a college. I had to have, support and help from one of my like family friend counselors, as well as my mom. First of all, they just pushed me to find like what aspects I want from a school, as well as like where to find it, where to do research and all that stuff. She had a giant book of colleges, and there's aspects of the school that you should be looking at, like size, the program, how many people, diversity. There's so many things, but I think one thing that I forgot to do, or that I was like pretty tunnel vision on, was the fact that like I was tunnel vision on the fact that I was going to college and that I had to apply, because ever since like first grade, just because of my family, like I just know that I'm going to college because it's one of the things I have to do. But I think one of the things that can really help you is if you step back and realize that college is a choice, and there should be a reason why you're going to college. And from that, you get a lot of answers. Like maybe you just want like a college experience, or maybe you want to, like receive higher education or something. But when you forget that, like there's a choice of going to college, sometimes you look for like things that you don't even really care about that much. Like if you don't care about size, but it's one of the things that is on like a list of what you should be looking for from somewhere that you see. Um, Maybe that's research that's not really that valuable to you. So it's just, I think for me, I had a late start because I didn't have that mindset from the beginning. I didn't really know what I was looking for. So I think one of the things you should do is just take a step back and like think about why you're going to college, and then from there you can get some good answers about what you want.
Well said, Ryan. Think about why you want to go to college. I think that's a beautiful place to start. Did you find that because you were in the dark in the beginning, did the whole process just maybe feel like it was lacking meaning because you hadn't pinpointed that? Did it feel a little lost at first? Because I find that a lot of seniors have a hard time getting started and feeling motivated, probably because
Yeah,
they don't have
exactly.
their why pinned down. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, I'm doing this. I know it's useful, but at the same time, I'm like, do I really need to be doing all this work right now? I didn't feel like anything. Like I felt like I was applying for something I didn't know so much about,
Mm.
even if I knew I was going to college, right? Like, so I knew I had to research all this stuff, but like at the end of the day, it didn't really mean anything to me, like you said. So I wasn't motivated, and people had to push me.
Okay, now, that's really great to know because I find that a lot of seniors throughout, they miss a window in the summer before their senior year to get going on the easy stuff. And then in the fall, they feel really overwhelmed because school has now started. And if they don't have that meaning, if they haven't been thinking about why do I want to go to school? What do I want to study? Like, where do I want to be? Why does it matter? They can just like procrastinate, and it becomes just this big, scary beast of a thing instead of something joyful to plan for their next year of life. So I'm really glad you brought up that point because I see a lot of folks get lost in the mire of that. James, I saw you nodding. Thank you, Ryan. Do you resonate with what Ryan said?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great advice. I think just in general, being excited about going to school makes it so much easier to go through the application process because you actually feel like motivated to do well through your entire applications and basically like do the best you can because you know it's going to affect you for the next 4 years. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's cool too how you've all touched upon you were looking for what you want, because at the end of the day, you're going to choose a place that fits you and your needs and your wants and what you're looking for and, to help you develop in this next stage of your life. And there is a fit out there for you. And it's not what fits anybody else. It is a special fit for you. So even just quieting the noise of all that you're hearing and the buzz around you helps you to kind of focus and stay true to yourself, right? Look into your heart and what it is you care about. And because it is easy to get lost in that other part too, like keeping up with other folks and the names and the, you just kind of lose the essence of why are you doing it? Again, back to Ryan's why. Why am I going to college? Why do I want to be there? Johnny, what do you think on this point?
Yeah, I'd say it's very good advice. If you don't know why you're doing something, then you're not going to want to put in the extra work when you don't have to. So from experience, like I was slow to the researching process, and I just kind of had these schools on my list, and I wouldn't really change it at all because I didn't feel like I was motivated to do much on that sense of things. So once I kind of locked down the why of like, this is what I want to do in college, this is what I want to get out of it, and not necessarily figured out exactly what I wanted to do, but why I wanted to do something, I was able to get a little bit more motivated and start the process.
I think that's excellent. And that idea of the why or the purpose behind it is not only clarifying, but it's where your focus is, right? They say where focus goes, energy flows. So when you can zero in on that focus point, your energy will go toward it, which is a perfect transition because now let's talk about the application itself. Because if you're not focused, if you don't want to do this thing, it ends up being a really big beast of a situation. But when you're focused on the what and the why of applying to college, you can break it down into the little chunks and come to the computer to fill it out with joy. Come and do your research with joy. Click on those websites to look for your schools and really be interested and watch the videos and read about the professors, because there is that background work, the research and all that's involved. Even the little, there's those little essays about why do you want to come to our school? They expect you to have done your research. And if you're not feeling it, you're not going to give a compelling argument to why you want to go, right? James, I see you nodding. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing I do want to add is don't feel like you have to know what exactly you want to study, like going into this, because I certainly didn't know for a long time. And who knows, I might end up switching when I'm at school. But if you like aren't totally sure exactly what you want to do, I think that's totally fine. You just want to look at more like in general what you're looking for in the school. And maybe if you're not like sure at all what you want to do, you want to look for a school that has more like academic flexibility. So if you do end up wanting to switch, you can. So that was just a point that I wanted to add, because you can be excited about schools and stuff and still not know exactly what you want to do at school. So yeah. And then back to Penny's point about, sorry, could you repeat exactly what?
I was just saying that, at certain points of the application process, you're faced with this dilemma, right? Like, why do you want to go to our school? It's a very revealing question, because you can even feel it in your body. Like, do I want to go? Am I willing to put in the research to say that I want to go? That's what I was just saying, that if you're drawn to it, the energy will be there, right?
Yes, that's very true. And you just want to make sure when you're writing those essays that you have done your research and you do find like specifically what you love about, X school or whatever school you're looking at. So yeah, definitely. It's much harder to write those essays when you're not actually like excited about the school. So I 100% agree.
Yeah, and they can see through that too, like they can tell. So it's good to know. Great advice, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about the application a little more. Ryan, I'll kick it to you. What do you wish you had known going into filling out your application, the actual process of doing the work of the application? Anything you wish you had known going in, kind of blind?
I think one of the things I wish I knew were I wish I was more prepared for the supplemental essays. Like, how for all colleges, you have your like giant essays. Yeah. There's also a couple of little smaller writing segments you have to do. And I just think it's useful to pay attention to those. I think the main thing is like when you're filling out an application, maybe one thing you can do before you even like do anything, like before you even commit to like applying for that school, like just look through the application and see what you have to go through. And you could do that for multiple schools and like, find some comparisons. And then you could get a good look at what are the common things you need to know in order to fill out an application. So obviously there's like what's it called? Personal statements. Mm-hmm. And then there's supplemental essays. There's, extracurriculars. Oh, that's the big one too. It's like just finding ways to describe your extracurriculars. That one took me a lot longer than I thought it would. Yeah. And like your awards, I'm trying to remember everything actually. Your awards, your grades, all that stuff. You have to explain every one of those. And I think if you don't look through the application, sometimes you didn't even know this existed. That was kind of the case for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think that's great advice. I'm going to be having a class for rising seniors that takes them through everything they have to do, specifically because what you're talking about, because seniors hardly ever give themselves the proper amount of time to write out what each, activity was in their 150 characters and make it impeccable, to really think about what they did, how they would describe it, the awards and all of that. And that takes time, and there has to be polish there. Just like the supplemental essays, like all of this takes time. And if you wait till the very end, you're going to kind of end up with some garbage there. So we want to do a quality job over time. And I think you're absolutely right. Looking at the whole thing first, kind of processing the big macro, and then breaking up into the micro. That's totally what I'll do in the class I want to have for seniors, because everybody always gets stuck on this point. They're surprised by the supplementals, right? Like, oh no, there's 4 extra. I didn't know. You got to look at it all first, take a deep breath, and then chip away, right? Thank you, Ryan. Excellent. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. What's nice is most schools do use the Common application, and a lot of the information you only have to fill in once. So there's common application questions that you fill out, and then there's specific ones per school that you can put on your list. And what surprised me about supplemental questions too is sometimes they'll hide it. Let's say you are like, sometimes it's even like specific for applying to a certain program. Like some schools will have separate engineering programs, or you're applying to a specific school. So you click what major you want to do and what school you want to go to. And then a question appears out of nowhere, like, why do you want to do this one thing? So, and there were definitely applications where I was surprised by that popping up. So the important thing to do is get all the easy stuff done first, because most of it is just clicking a box or 1-word answers. And then you'll know how much work you have to do on the bigger stuff, the essays, the short answer responses, if you want to put more time into those, because you want to spend time on the bigger stuff and not on the small stuff that surprises you.
Great, Johnny. Great nugget of wisdom there, everyone. What school do I want to apply to? What major do I want? Surprise, there's another supplemental essay that you between 300 to 700 words sometimes, and they're expecting quality. Thank you, Johnny, for that. Super important. James, what do you think about the application process in general? Any hard lessons? Any surprises for you? Did you surprise yourself in any way as you were going through it?
Yeah, so I agree with Johnny's point. Like, definitely I would go through the schools that even if you don't know if you're going to apply to them, like go through and like check all the like say what school you're applying to, that kind of stuff, because sometimes there will be supplemental essays that come out of nowhere. And what I ended up doing eventually was, so when I was like deciding what schools I wanted to apply to, I kind of made like a spreadsheet with a lot of the like important information, I guess, about the schools. And on that spreadsheet, I included how many supplemental essays per school. So then I could see like, what's my total here, because that's a lot. It's good to just get an idea for like how much or what you're in for, basically, because it makes it easier to start earlier on that. And I think, yeah, in general, like the biggest piece of advice I can give is just like start early. Because really my feeling about the whole application process was like, I'm just going to, grind this for like this period of time. And maybe you'll feel like, oh, it's my senior year, I want to have fun and that kind of stuff. But second semester, you're going to have plenty of fun. My, philosophy around the whole application process was like, I'm just going to prioritize this, because I think you'll feel a lot better at the end of it, knowing that you did the best you could, and you really put like as much time into it as possible, than like if you kind of didn't do your best, basically. So, and you'll feel a lot better about your applications in general if you just start early. And that doesn't mean you have to like start, writing your entire essay, a year, but like just, jotting down some ideas for like what you're going to write about for this essay or whatever. That really helps, and it makes it feel less daunting, because there will be a lot of essays. But yeah.
Thank you, James. I totally agree. And you can all go to the commonapp.com right now, commonapplication.com, whatever it is, and just register, and you can start looking at it and open one. They don't close your account. You can keep adding schools, and you can start looking. If you're a rising senior, you can start that right now. You can start checking boxes right now. All that little stuff that everyone's telling you tonight about like getting the easy stuff early. You can start typing in your mom and dad's name, all of that stuff, get it out of the way, especially the summer before senior year. I think it's super important. And I'm glad, you know, when you get a long lead like that, you start in the summer, then you can just see, you know, that's out of the way. I can focus on this more, take some breathers, take some days off, come back to it. You know, it's a long-term process. And like any long-term project, you're going to dip a little, come away from it, dip a little, come away from it. And that keeps your energy and focus going. You don't get exhausted, and you produce the quality that James is talking about, because you want it to have that polish and shine so you can show yourself in the best light, of course. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
I actually have something to add on to what Penny said.
Please do.
So, yeah, so you should definitely fill out all the small stuff, but actually that applies to the big stuff as well. Like, what I found was because I'm an undisciplined person, what I found, the only thing that helped me was what I just thought, like, if there's something I could finish in 15 minutes, just do it. And for the big stuff, like for essays, I have a tip there. If you just think of, you're gonna sit down for 15 minutes, like brainstorm, like just one or two ideas of what we're gonna do for an essay. And more often than not, you spend like maybe 30 or 45 minutes of like just good thinking of what you want to do for the essay. And so even for the big stuff, you can still think of it as like small 15-minute projects like you would do for the actual 15-minute project. And you'll end up getting some stuff done and you won't regret it.
That's very wise, Ryan. And it's always good to have that brainstorming, you know, brain dump time, step away, think about what you just wrote, you know, then more ideas come when you start early in those little chunks like that. Excellent advice. Thank you, Ryan. Absolutely. I'll ask this. What are you most proud of now that you've been through it and you've gotten your results and you've made your decisions? Johnny, I'll kick it up to you. What are you most proud of having completed this big long-term project that we're talking about, applying to college? You're muted, Johnny, if you're speaking. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to turn on my car to charge my phone.
Oh,
So I don't know if I'm still on camera. Oh, there I
you're
am.
perfect.
So honestly, what I'm most proud of for the process is getting it done. You know, it is a lot of work, especially because I did not start early enough. So there were definitely times where it's like, you know, you can do a supplemental essay in one night, but you don't want to. So I was proud of myself to just kind of get the process over with, because it's not a particularly hard process, but it's a long process. So most of it is just kind of introspection and putting down your thoughts. So you already know what you want to say. It's just about writing it down in an eloquent fashion. So it feels very good to submit that final application and then just kind of sink back in the chair and just go, I don't have to do one more of those. So I'd say getting that process done is a very fulfilling feeling.
Congratulations. I love it. You said you feel like you didn't start early enough. When do you wish you'd start if you could go back and do it again?
So I started writing essays, trying to remember when the first deadlines were, probably like September, October. And I probably could have started August or July because the common application questions come out earlier. Like they come out at least like late summer, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But supplemental questions for colleges will most likely be very similar to what they had in years past. You can look those up. And if it's not, then might help on another application, because most of the time it's just recycled questions. So it's very easy to start the brainstorming process and know what you're writing about, because it sucks to sit down like, you know, I have to finish this application by the end of the week, and this is the first time I'm reading this supplement question, and you just don't have an idea. So I think the brainstorming process, you could start in the summer, late summer, and then it makes the physical writing process very quick, because, you know, you're just at that point writing down ideas you've already had.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like from this year, like your year and the year before, the Common App major questions did not change at all. They were the exact same. And PS, at the end, you have a seventh option. It's like, write anything you want. So you can literally interpret an essay prompt any way you want and it'll fit, So thank you for that, Johnny. Absolutely. Ryan, how about you? What are you most proud of after all is said and done now?
Yeah, honestly, me, I think I'm just the same as Johnny, because I started pretty late, probably even later than Johnny, and it was kind of a mistake. But um, it was my choice. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I wasn't as motivated as I should have been because I didn't really think about why I wanted to go to college. So because of that, I had to start, kind of in October, like mid-October, because that's when I finally started to write. And during the summer, like if you don't want to do it, then I was kind of like in denial. I was like, I refuse to look at the prompts until later. Like I should probably think more about like my characteristics and what I'm good at. And, you like avoid it in a way.
Yeah.
So I started pretty late, but I'm proud that I got it done, and I'm proud that I'm going to a college that I like at the end of the day. I just suggest that no matter how scary it looks, like just look at it for once at least in the summer, and then like I said, you could do like 15-minute just brainstorming like once a day or whatever. It's really not that much, and I probably should have done it, but yeah, it's actually kind of a lot to be proud of. It's a lot of work, and even if you don't get into the college that you want to, like I don't regret putting in all the work, because you also grow a lot. Like you learn a lot about yourself, about like how disciplined you are. I don't think there's any going wrong with doing college applications.
I agree. And I was just going to mention that I hear in what you're telling, Ryan, as like there was a genesis here, like a real growth, a maturity even brought you from the early stages to where you are now. And I think it's beautiful. And that's one thing I help students each year with their college apps. And there's huge growth and development through the process. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And whatever you start out with, it's totally different by the end of it. And that shows that you're growing and changing, which is awesome. Thank you, Ryan. James, how about you? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably most proud of my essays and just like both like the quality of them in the end and how many I was able to finish. Because I'm not like a huge fan of writing essays, I would say. I mean, I think the prompts for college essays are more fun because they're more, like Johnny said, kind of more introspective, not like, your basic research paper or something like that. But still, it's just so much writing and I'm not like totally into that. So I was very just proud of like of the quality of my essays in the end. And just to speak about like when I started, so I might be a little more crazy, but I think I started, if I'm not mistaken, I think in June, over the summer. And honestly, like that, I think helped me so much because you might not think that I mean, you might think you have like a good amount of free time during the school year, but it just like you have so much less. So I think starting in the summer, even if I was just doing like a little bit, throughout, every day, just a little bit, and you don't even have to do it every day. I certainly didn't, but I just mean like just getting a little bit done is so helpful because your time will, your amount of free time over the school year will just like plummet. So yeah, I think I was finished with like, or at least like mostly finished with my main Common App essay by the end of summer. And that gave me extra time to focus on the supplementals as well. And I think that was just really helpful for me because I take a while to write essays as well. And I'm not like a huge essay writing person. So for me personally, I think that helped a lot.
I think that's very wise, James. And you know yourself, right? Know thyself. If you know it takes a while for you to write and you need time, and I think June is the optimal time to start. I'm a big proponent of starting in June, and I've been saying that for years because you want that lead time and you want to chip away and have, the limited time that you have during the school year to use it to the best of your ability, because sports, homework, classes, social life too. And it's a lot. And that's really great that you were able to start early and you feel like complete with it. Like it was a satisfying process as well. Love it. Thank you so much. I love everything that you guys have said. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd love to hear questions from anybody who's joining us. If you'd like to ask a question of any of our panelists, please go ahead and unmute or raise your hand and I'll call on you. If anyone have any questions, you can also send them through the chat as well. If you don't have a question at the moment, maybe a comment, or maybe you want to thank one of our guests tonight for something that he said that might have really resonated with you or made you have an aha moment or understand any part of this process a little bit better than what you thought you already did, you can also send that in the chat or go ahead and unmute. No, everyone good? All right, Mary Catherine has raised her hand. Go ahead, Mary Catherine.
Hi, Penny. Thank you to all the participants or panelists. You're doing an awesome job. I have a question about, is there anything you found out you shouldn't write about?
Who would like to take this? James, you want to take it, and then we'll hear from everyone.
Yeah, I'd say in general, just don't try to pretend to be someone that you're not. Write about something that you are actually interested in. And I've heard some people say like, oh, don't write about sports, that kind of stuff. I don't really know about that. I mean, I think as long as like you're trying to convey like what kind of person you are in your essays, especially like the main Common App essay, I think that's the way to go.
Thanks, James. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. From what I've learned about the writing process, and specifically for college application essays and everything, a good writing piece can make something very boring or like not necessarily the most interesting, very interesting and compelling. So it doesn't actually have to be about like the greatest experience of your life, because not everyone has that like profound experience. Like I went on this trip and I did like these amazing things, and it's more about what it meant to you, what you write about, what it meant to you, and how you write about it, because they want to see how you write, not necessarily like another like story of something that you might have done. So I think that it's more about what you can produce from writing versus what you can come up with that's the most interesting, like as a baseline story. In terms of like something you shouldn't write about, I'm not sure. Just like I've also kind of heard that like don't write about a textbook experience, like sort of like sport experience, something like that. But if that is a good experience to write about and you can pull it off as a writer to make that very compelling and interesting, then it's more about how you write about it, not about what you write about.
Thank you, Johnny. Ryan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you should just avoid like writing something you're not actually proud about. But I know what you mean. I think there's definitely some. I think people have told me, and wait, can you tell me like do you have any do you have any idea of like what people have been saying what not to write about? Like I think there's certain topics that people say not to write about, but I don't know if it's actually bad to write about. Yeah. But do you have any like
yeah, what are you thinking?
Has anyone told you not to write about something?
Are there themes that come to mind, Mary Catherine?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just wondering if they had learned anything in the process.
Yeah.
Any sort of feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's always good to write about something like unconventional, especially if you're like actually really proud of it, because they can see through that. But it's also okay to write about something conventional if you are proud of it, because they'll see through that too. Like there's gonna be some topics where everyone's gonna write about it. But if you're like actually proud of it, and you have like your voice shows, or they can tell that you're passionate, then usually it's okay. I don't think there's any particular topic that's bad to write about.
Yeah. I think to answer your question, Ryan, I've heard like, don't write about death, don't write about doing drugs, or, like this type of stuff. Like in general, you don't want to write anything that puts you in a bad light, that makes you look irresponsible, or like you wouldn't be a positive addition to the community. You want to not only present yourself in the best light, but that doesn't mean you've never failed. It doesn't mean you're perfect, right? You can share stories about, failure, disappointment, and how you've learned and grown from that. So it's not necessarily don't write about anything negative. There are certain kind of taboo topics, but what if a certain taboo topic has some huge enlightenment at the end? I would say write about it. It's all personal, and it's in, how you compose it and what those layers are that you reveal. Because at the end of the day, each essay is showing you as a person, because they can't get you as a person from all the boxes checked. So this time to write is really, and the recommendations too, they help and show what type of person you are. But the essay opportunities are your chance to show the sides of you that can't be seen with the checked boxes and everything typed out. So it's more about revealing the layers and, the deeper understanding that you have about a particular situation or topic, or just a general point of view that might not be so obvious, or a common thread theme that runs through your life that you've put together in some way, and are able to share that wisdom with the reader as well. So I just wanted to add that. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying and what you said earlier. Like, don't be afraid to write about, a time that you've maybe failed or struggled, as long as you just talk about like how you've learned from that. Colleges actually like to see that, especially if like, that they see this perfect like cookie cutter kid. They don't want to just read about like, oh, the time that they won some tournament or whatever. They like to hear about. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to write about like your struggle or failure or anything like that, but don't be afraid to write about it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And don't be afraid to be funny. Don't be afraid to show your personality. Excellent. Thank you, James. Another question, is there any activity or experience that you'd recommend for high school summers? High school summers, what would you recommend? Ryan, you got a high school summer recommendation?
High school summer recommendation.
Before junior year?
If you're passionate or interested in anything in particular, maybe you could try to find an internship, or like a camp that has that, or actually it doesn't have to be something organized. This could be something you can organize yourself. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I know one of my friends was like really into coding, but I know he didn't want to find like an internship himself. So over the summer, all he did was he just learned how to code and he developed a game. Beautiful. And because of that, he got a really good application. But one of the things I would suggest you don't do is like, don't just find some activity that you think will like help your college application, because at the end of the day, I've had some of those activities. At the end of the day, you're not going to really be able to write about that, if that makes any sense. Like, you're doing it for the college app, so it doesn't really mean as much to you, and therefore, they'll notice that. They'll just know it's just an activity, kind of like a filler, because you don't really have anything else. So I'd say like just maybe think about what you're interested in, and then just do something. It doesn't have to be something organized, but it could. Just like, enjoy it.
I agree. Well done, Ryan. Let's put a hard stop on that point right now. You should all be doing things you want to do, period. You should never be doing anything just to fill in the box. If you have a volunteer box to fill in, fine, but find something you care about. Don't do it if you don't care about it. And that is a life lesson, because we only have a finite amount of time on this earth, right? And we want to spend it doing what we want to do. And if you do something you don't want to do, it helps point you in the direction of where you do want to go. So it doesn't mean you're always going to be doing what you want to, but when it's uncomfortable, it helps shift you in the direction that you're meant to be in. So thank you, Ryan. Absolutely. Johnny, do you have an answer? What do you think? High school summers?
Yeah. High school summers, I got summer going from my sophomore to junior year. I got a job. I'm still working there now. That's where I came from before this. Colleges, and honestly for life experiences too, you can never underestimate the value that a minimum wage job will bring. It brings so much like maturity, and it's just such a valuable experience. And it's nice, to be on the other side of things as well, instead of just being a consumer. So that I feel like that's something that's very valuable as well. But then, there's internships about something you're interested in. My friend even did, like, he likes tennis and he likes history. So he coached tennis to elementary school kids, and he did a research project where he interviewed people at a retirement home about post-World War II culture in the US. And that was his summer, and he had a great time. And I think that's what he wrote his essay about, that experience of talking to the old people and about post-war culture in the US. And so he found his thing. He knew what he wanted to do, he knew what he liked, and he found something that fit it. So it's more about, like what Ryan was saying, is you have to like what you're doing. So it's about finding something to do that surrounds your interests, not forcing your interest on something to do.
Love it. And what do you do, Johnny? Do you have a wage job that's helped you grow?
Yeah, so I work at a Runner's Mind, which is a local run specialty store in the Bay Area. There's 3 locations.
Plug in the store. So Johnny's not just walking the walk here, right? He's talking the talk. He loves to run. He's on the team at school. He works at the store and helps fit you for shoes. He goes and runs with his colleagues, and he's going to college to run too. If you love it and you feel it, it will permeate throughout your life. So again, don't fake it. Don't do something you're not interested in, because you're building yourself as a person too. And we only get one life. Do what you love. And if you're doing something you don't love, it'll point you in the direction of what you might sooner or later, right? James, I have another question. How important is community service? And if you want to answer the summer jobs question, go ahead. But point of view on community service, how important is it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak from like how the colleges feel about it. I don't know exactly. I always have participated in community service, like as a Boy Scout. It's something I've done. And then when I eventually got to the point where I was kind of like stopping Boy Scouts, I ended up doing some more community service through the Red Cross Club at our school, because that's just something that I enjoy. So, but I mean, yeah, I think it's always good to get involved in some community service if possible. And also if it's something that like interests you, that's another, like if it's involved, or similar to something that you're interested in, like, for example, tutoring kids in a topic that you really love, that counts as community service to me, because you're helping kids. So, it doesn't have to be like you're doing manual labor or something like that. Which I've also done plenty of, but yeah. So I think it's important to get involved in it. But yeah, you don't have to do like crazy stuff. Just as long as you're, helping out the community and doing something that you love, I think that's what matters.
I agree. And it's very rewarding too, isn't it, James? You know a lot about community service. James has all the badges. What do we call those? Do we call them badges, James, that you earn?
Yeah, they're merit badges. Yep.
So great. His sash is gorgeous.
I also have one more thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's similar to my first point that I made when I first came on here, but like if as a high school student, you're kind of known to, you got to do summer stuff, you got to do stuff because you need a good college application and stuff like that. But I think one good thing to think about is to remember that you have a choice of whether or not you could do nothing or you could do something during the summer. And usually when you have it in that perspective, you could be like, maybe it is kind of valuable to do something rather than just like I have to do it, and it's kind of tedious, and it's kind of, it's kind of repels you when you think of something that you have to do. So if you remember that, I don't have to do anything in the summer, but I kind of want to get good college application or something like that, then again, it could kind of point you in the right direction of what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Ryan. And I think a bigger theme that I'm seeing here is that you're designing a life, right? With anything you choose to do, you're designing a life for yourself, and you're kind of designing how you want to present yourself to the folks who are going to read your applications. And you do have a choice in that, right? Here's the person I want to be, here's what I'm interested in, and here's what I'm going to share about it. So absolutely, in every choice you make, you have the opportunity to pick what fits you best. So that's an excellent point. Thank you, Ryan. All right, well, if we don't have any other questions, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your great questions. To James, Johnny, and Ryan, it's been amazing hearing your point of view. You have been, so generous with your time and with your wisdom. I like so many moments tonight where I said, yes, 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 this is excellent. You hit on so many great points, and those are points that only an insider would have, as you are now through it and on the other side. So we want to wish you the best as you graduate this week and next week, and have a wonderful summer before college. And of course, we wish you the best next year as well. But thank you all for being here. This has been a wonderful, wonderful meeting. I can't wait to stay in touch, and keep us posted, everyone, all of our panelists especially, on how you're doing. And I can't wait to see you again. Okay. Thank you all for being here, and have a great night. You can unmute and say goodbye too. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Penny, for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Bye.